Google's algorithm has leaked and it feels like everyone in the SEO world has lost their damn minds. Should you? Some people are reporting this is the biggest SEO news of the century, while others are saying this won't affect their SEO tactics at all. Now, I know this has been talked about over and over again on X and LinkedIn, so I don't want to regurgitate content you've already heard. So let's place on our critical thinking hats. And at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I'll be changing my local SEO tactics moving forward. Now, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, so I will be reviewing some of the facts that have come out over this past week. If you feel caught up, go to the timeline below and skip ahead to the section titled The Most Important Thing You Need to Know. So let's get caught up on some of the facts. In case you didn't know, Rand Fishkin was the founder of Moz, and even though he's been out of SEO for a while, a initially anonymous source got on a call with him in a funny face and revealed that they had found leaked API documentation from Google's search division. It appears that this information was from around March 13th, and it contains over 2,500 modules with 14,000 attributes. Now, here's what the actual code looks like. You can see there's a lot of data in here, so it's really hard to break it down. Now, in case you haven't taken computer science class recently, a module in this example is like a function, and an attribute is like a variable. And so the attributes are like the characteristics that could be spoken of in the function. That was probably the worst definition of a function ever. Just go ask Google AI overviews, and after they tell you to add glue to your pizza or drink urine to cure your kidney stones, they'll probably give you a better answer of what a function is. Yeah, see? Small reusable section of a program that performs a specific task and returns a value to the main program. That's way better than whatever the heck I just said. All right, so 2,500 modules, 14,000 attributes. We also know that other Google services are mentioned in the leak, like Assistant, YouTube, things like that, but almost 8,000 of the mentions are for Google search, which is what we're typically concerned about when we're talking about SEO. So just pay attention to that. This document is primarily concerning Google search. In case you're not a programmer that's never looked at API references, usually what that means is there's comments, which are little notes about the code, just kind of saying this is what this is about. The notes are kind of sparse, which is pretty typical. So there's only so much information we can glean. But the first question that a lot of people had is this even legit? Well, Google responded, and here's their actual statement. I'm going to actually read it here. So they said, we would caution against making inaccurate assumptions about search based on out of context, outdated, or incomplete information. We've shared extensive information about how search works and the types of factors that our systems weigh, while also working to protect the integrity of our results from manipulation. Now, like a lot of people, I have some issues with this quote here because it says out of context, outdated, incomplete. Now, this is probably incomplete. It's not all the information, right? We're not actually seeing how the modules work per se. But this is the most important thing here. Notice that way word, way, right there. Okay, that's going to come back here in a second. So that's some foreshadowing for what's about to come here. But outdated, I mean, that's this year. There have been some people that have mentioned that there's nothing talking about AI overviews here, but besides that, this seems to be pretty up-to-date information. Maybe it's incomplete, and it's a little out of context because we are missing a piece of the puzzle, which is what we're going to talk about next. But I mean, I don't know, it feels like kind of a pretty pressy quote. I think that we can still use this information. And now it's time for the most important thing to take away from this leak. But before I say that, I just want to make sure that you're signed up for my weekly SEO newsletter, right? In case you're not, link's in the description. It's completely free. Come on, do it. Okay, here's the thing you have to make sure you know before we talk about the ranking factors. It's that these documents do not talk weight weight at all. In case you haven't looked at weight before, it's like the strength of a connection. In this situation, the weight, remember they just talked about weights a second ago, that's exactly what they meant. They meant in a computer science sense, weight could probably be translated to importance, particularly with the search algorithm. The amount of weight is how important this is. There is no mention of weight. So we have no idea what the importance of all of these ranking factors are. And remember, the weight could be 0. Maybe not for every search, but we're going to see that one of the pieces of information, which we already knew, but is just validated by these documents, is that there's different results for different searches, right? We already know that. And so what could potentially be happening in the algorithm is the weight drops to 0. It's not even looked at, it's not even calculated, but it's there. And so it's hard to believe that some of the things we're going to talk about, especially the first thing we're going to talk about, has a weight of 0 always. Like there's no way they collect all this information just to have it. So anyway, just know that we don't know the importance, and so it's hard for us to rank it. I'm going to give these kind of in the interestingness scale, if you will, which is probably a word I just made up. But just know that neither I nor anybody else out there that's really talking about this from well, we'll say, I don't want to say an educated standpoint, but from somebody that's looking at the facts and not just trying to create a clickbait video, is very correctly saying that they can't rank these in order of importance because we just don't have that information. It's not included in the documentation. Now, by far, the most interesting factor to consider, number 1, is nav boost. Now, in case you haven't heard about nav boost before, it's been widely mentioned in the DOJ case files or whatever the heck's out there. I'm not a legal expert. But anyway, they've been talking about nav boost as this kind of information that gets collected by actually Chrome. There's kind of some conspiracy theories out there that Chrome was invented to help make the search engine algorithm better. And not only that, but some of the DOJ documents have said stuff like nav boost might be the most important search ranking factor. So what the heck is nav boost? Well, if we look at the documentation, it's talking about things like bad clicks, clicks. It's also talking about things like good clicks, impressions, last longest click, which feels like it's talking about dwell time. There's some other things about like the searches that led to it, squashed, which is just kind of supposed to be like a leveling off of data. But really, and you could watch all the other videos. They talk about nav boost a lot, and I'm not a nav boost expert by any means. But basically, we're talking about user engagement with your page. And the reason why this is important is because some Googlers have said that things like CTR are made up metrics, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not, maybe this is always set to a weight of 0. We don't know, but there's a good chance that the more user engagement you get on your site, the better. Now, this is actually really important. Some of the videos that Rand Fishkin has been putting out, because he's just kind of been on the cutting edge of this, because he got to look at it first and longer than any of us have, is that this information, this click information, could come from anywhere. And so the second thing I want to talk about is getting as many clicks from as many sources as possible. Now, that does mean PPC, pay per click, ads. There's been this kind of conspiracy theory in SEO for a long time that if you run a PPC campaign, you'll rank higher. People have noticed that the big guys up at the top seem to always rank higher. So does that mean that getting clicks from your PPC campaign makes you rank higher? Now, Rand Fishkin makes a good point. Maybe they have machine learning that can narrow down some of these searches. And particularly for local SEO, I don't think this matters. The example he gave was that, like, you might copy this link and share it with other people in a Slack channel on social media. Those were the specific examples he gave. But I don't think people are doing that for the local general contractor's ad, right? So I don't think this affects anything for local. But the getting clicks from all sources, now we're talking here. So that if NavBoost has the importance that Google has mentioned that it has in DOJ, which they're under oath for that, so why would they lie? Obviously they want to obfuscate things so that we don't have direct correlation, because the search engine would get manipulated, would fall apart immediately. But I think that driving traffic to your site from all sources, social, YouTube, email newsletters, just organically by partnerships and, you know, banners and billboards and, you know, people run around with t-shirts with your website on it. I don't know, but getting as many clicks as possible is going to be a good thing. Interesting fact number 3, toxic backlinks are probably a thing. If we go on this page, bad backlinks, in which case we should not improve anchor score and Mustang A score. Oh, it says this doc is penalized by bad backlinks. So I'm not going to go into all the A score Mustang stuff because I don't really understand how that stuff works. But based on the many articles I've read on this, the fact that they're mentioning bad backlinks there basically disproves the myth that toxic backlinks don't exist. Now, the importance of toxic backlinks can probably still be debated. This right here is saying this doc is penalized, which is specifically what a toxic backlink is. There have been recent documents that say toxic backlinks are just being ignored, so you don't have to worry about trying to clean those up. We're pretty sure because disavow is not mentioned in this file, although again it's probably incomplete. And that means there's probably no way to even tell Google about these toxic backlinks besides like manually removing them. But I don't know, it's just one of the many reasons why you should be very careful when you're doing a link building strategy. And again, like I've mentioned in other videos, like this one where I talked about how to build legit backlinks for your local SEO efforts, you're probably not going to have to worry about toxic backlinks because you're not going on Fiverr or Upwork to buy backlinks. You're going out there and you're looking for backlinks yourself and trying to steal your competitors. Now, one of the implications that came out there is that page titles can have site-wide implications, which means you want to optimize all of your page titles throughout your entire site and not just worry about what you're doing on a specific page. That's pretty interesting. And I feel like I've seen that before. Like I'm working on a site and I've only done 2 pages and I see like a little bit of a boost, but then I actually sit down, do the rest of the pages, and it's like, oh, now we're ranking all over the place. Maybe not super high, but we're showing up in the right bucket, right? Which goes back to like what's important for SEO, relevancy, authority. So that's a fun fact. But speaking with page titles, number 4 ranking factor is that page titles should be matched to the query. Now, this is like old school SEO here, but I think like we've all seen this, right? Especially in local, like this really makes me think about local here, is that like you want to get that SEO title down, because if you don't, you're not showing up in the right SEO bucket. This kind of edifies my whole relevancy thing. So title match score of the site, a signal that tells how well titles are matching user queries. And for commercial intent keywords, which is typically what we're concerned about in local SEO, people are just searching things like general contractor, Bend, Oregon. And so like, why wouldn't you have your SEO title be general contractor, Bend, Oregon? Now I know this is going to make for really boring SEO titles, and it's kind of the opposite of Nav Boost where we're trying to get signals. But anyway, I'll talk more about that in the next section. Number 5, freshness matters. As you can see, Google is keeping track of histories of your site and up to 20 versions apparently. It says right here, URL change history for this doc has more than 20 changes. We can only keep the last 20 changes. So basically, you're not getting a clean slate until you've done 20 updates to your site. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And then the last one, number 6, 2 hands, we're going to say mentions of entities. Now, this is one that Rand Fishkin is really big on. But basically, think of this concept as being mentioned on a website, but not being linked back to your site. Like, what if they just mention Then Can Designs as an SEO agency in Bend, Oregon, but they don't link back? Historically, we would think that was a total waste of time. Why did I put any effort towards that? But apparently there's this like concept of entities. So entities are maybe these things that Google keep track of for businesses out there, because we're thinking about small businesses, serve local customers. So it's saying right here, multiple entities can be identified on a document or query. Each entity can be mentioned several times in different versions on the document or query. The message describes this message describes a single mention of the entity, and it can either be explicit or implicit. And there's all this information on mentions. And so this brings up the theory that maybe we don't just need to get links, but we need to get mentions. And maybe being mentioned somewhere causes us as a user to be like, oh, I want to look up then Can Designs now. So you go to Google, you search for it, and you click on it, and it's part of that nav boost flow. Like maybe it's not link juice flowing, but if that page is getting a lot of traffic, it would, in theory, make some people search for your business and go look for it afterwards. It's just something to think about. Again, we don't know the importance of these unlinked mentions, but it's not something we can ignore, and it's kind of a novel concept. All right, now that we've mentioned some of the ranking factors that were more important, or at least more interesting, it's time to get the actions I'll personally be taking with my SEO agency here in Bend, Oregon. And while I'm dropping these actions, please take a moment, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button so more people can find this, and then be a doll and subscribe to the channel, because every week I'm dropping local SEO videos and I want to help you out on your local SEO journey. So here are the actions I plan to actually take with my lean and mean SEO agency. Number one, I want to drive more traffic no matter the source. Now, I'm a pretty big blog hater, in case you've been following this channel. I don't think this means to the entire site, but maybe if we get people to the site, they'll go to the service page. But I still don't like poorly qualified traffic. But the thing is, if my small business client can think of other means to get traffic to their site, then I want to get creative and think about ways to do that. I want to think about things like click-through rate. Maybe I'm going to spend more time with my meta descriptions and not just let ChatGPT create it like I might have done for a couple people. I'm going to go back, I'm going to revamp those because I want to see more people getting to the site and spending more time. I want more of those last long clicks or whatever the heck they were. Number two, page matching titles. Page title matching, yeah. Not only is that super important and an activity that I've already been doing, but I'm going to double down on it. And something that was interesting is they noticed that there was no count length when it came to page title. So maybe, just maybe, I'll start trying out some longer SEO titles, and Google will rewrite it for the SERP anyway, won't they? So I'm willing to experiment with that. Number three, consider the diversity of the SERP. Now, we didn't talk about this one earlier, but Google is limiting the amount of specific results that show up in a SERP. Remember, SERP stands for Search Engine Result Page. I don't think this was the right source here, but Google's limiting the number of sites on a given type, of a given type that can appear in the results. We see this in local SEO all the time. It seems like there's 4 listicles in the top 10, including Yelp usually, and then some other home service business, if that's what you do, like some listing like Home Advisor or Angie, something like that. And then there's just Yelp in general for like one business, and there's only like 3 local businesses. And so that's something to think about as you're building your strategy. As you're building out content, look at the number of different types of things and realize that, okay, there's only 5 small businesses in the top 20. Google might actually be specifically limiting that at the algorithm level, and our goal is to get in that top 5, not to try to be the 6th. If we can't beat number 5, who might be 6 spots ahead of us, we have 6 spots to go to get to that one who's actually number 5 for local businesses. And I've already been thinking about this, but I didn't realize it was because Google might be intentionally limiting this. But this could explain that. I think it's time to consider looking for unlinked mentions. Now, the things that we do to find locally relevant backlinks, like talking to people in our local area, see if we can get mentioned, we can still do those things. But now, if somehow we can just end up on somebody's list of partners in the area, like trusted advisors in the area, and they aren't like tech savvy enough to link back to our website and actually pass the link juice back, or if there's like no authority on the site, then hey, like we're still getting mentioned, so that's cool. But then that brings us to number 5, where of course backlinks still matter. Google might not be lying to us. They recently said things like it's not one of the top 3 ranking factors and that links just don't matter as much as they used to. That can be true, and everything else we've learned can also be true. But I think it's important for us to really focus on, when it comes to building authority, backlinks are probably the main thing we want to think about. And now maybe unlinked mentions a little bit. But we don't just want to look at the DA or AS on our favorite SEO tools. We want to think about the traffic that the page is getting. If nav boost is important as this document makes it seem, we want to focus on getting backlinks from pages that are actually getting search traffic. And I know, because you might have clicked on that video I pointed to in the card earlier, a lot of the links that you're going to get for like a service page for a plumbing company in little town Louisiana aren't going to get that much traffic. So we just have to do what we have to do. And really, this is why I think local SEO has a different calculus than national SEO. National SEO is a different ballgame. You have to get such good backlinks to rank higher than the big dogs, you know, the Forbeses and the CNNs of the world, right, that are showing up at the top of the search results. But for local SEO, we're just competing with our local competition, and also things like HomeAdvisor, Angie, whatever, right? Which now we probably know are being shoved in there by Google. Thanks, Google. Why wouldn't you favor local businesses? But still, just try to get the best dang backlinks you can. And if they end up not being that good of DA and that good of search traffic, like, hey, at least we're doing something. Now, before I get to number 6, which is the last one, please leave a comment below if you saw a takeaway from another post or video and you're like, I'm totally going to do that for my SEO efforts. I definitely want to hear about it. Leave that comment below. I respond to almost every comment, like every comment, even the one like bad comment I ever got. I respond to that person too. So feel free to leave a comment with the action you will be taking, or maybe the one from this list you think is the most important. But now it's time for number 6. Keep your pages fresh. And I don't mean with a blog. So remember when we talked about the history thing earlier? It's keeping a log of your site over time. Now, a lot of people think that means like, oh, okay, I need to keep posting a blog every week or every day or every hour. No, don't do that. Go through and update your service pages. Add some more project photos. Maybe mention a case study of a recent project you did. You know, I'm talking about home services people here. Let's switch over to other people. You know, maybe you have a case study from a patient. You know, you're a naturopath. You want to talk about a complicated, condition that you treated recently. Obviously, remove all the HIPAA so that way it can't be tied back to the patient. But you can talk about how you specifically met, like under that condition page for, you know, hyperthyroidism or whatever it is you treat. You can mention like, oh, here is the treatment plan that we were able to execute and how we were able to do it using alternative means instead of the traditional Western medicine. You know what the heck I'm talking about. So like, think about the content you can add to your pages, not necessarily to make them huge, and then also go back through and see if there are things that we can get rid of because we have better content that we can put. I'm not saying the content is key, and I'm not saying that we know the weight of any of these 6 things that I'm talking about, like what's the most important. I just know that it's probably a good idea to keep updating these pages over time. And so as part of my on-page SEO optimizations that I offer with my ongoing SEO services, I'm going to make sure that I'm going through and updating the pages. Hey, guess what? I was doing that already, but now I'm thinking a little bit more about what else I can include while I do that. And I could be a little bit more intentional about it besides just doing what you see on YouTube, which is usually like copying what the competition's doing and trying to do it better. I'm actually going to focus on maybe including stuff that the users will want, because now we know that user engagement is pretty important. So let's try to keep them on the page a little bit longer with something that's more interesting than what the competition is doing. Woo! Okay, I know that was a lot. Now that you know just about as much as you need to know about the Google algorithm leak, I think it's time we get back to stressing about Google's AI overviews. What do you think? But don't worry, I've already covered how I'm preparing for Google's AI overviews in this video right here. Of course, it's from a local SEO perspective, but I really think the steps I give in this video will help you future-proof your local SEO strategy. Be sure to check out that video now.